Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this evening session on the MIAD 812, where we are going to look at the module 2 of this particular course. In this module 2, we are going to look at the issues in conflict and cooperations. No, the course title itself is about conflict and cooperation. So, so the first thing we need to look at here is terrorism. We are going to look at this study section 1, which talks about terrorism and counter-terrorism, insurgency and counter-insurgency. Listen, so terrorism is familiar to everybody in Nigeria. It's not something new. So the contemporary international system is currently increasing, and it has been characterized by complex security challenges. And one of these complex security challenges are the transnational challenges we are facing, the terrorism aspect. Listen, so terrorism and insurgency is what we will look at the first part of this class, and we should know that they represent an irregular conflict. They represent an irregular conflict in the state. So, from the slide, you can see I mentioned that terrorism. I gave it a definition of terrorism. That I said terrorism is a politically charged term, without a universal agreement. Listen, without a universal agreement. So we don't have a universal definition for the word terrorism. Listen, but most definitions share common elements. So there is no universal definition for terrorism, but most of the definition of terrorism share common elements. That is, they have common features they share. Listen, so generally, terrorism refers to deliberate use of violence, the deliberate use of violence or threats of violence, use of violence or threat of violence by non-state actors against civilian or symbolic target. The threat is against the civilian or symbolic target in order to achieve political, ideological, or religion objective by creating fear and psychological pressure. From the definition I gave, you will notice that we say is a violence that is carried out on civilian or symbolic target. Look at the 911 target in the US. The 911 target was not deliberately targeted on the US citizen. It was targeted on a prominent building in the USA as to create what? Psychological pressure or political pressure. You understand? So I repeat the definition. The definition is terrorism is the deliberate use of violence or threat of violence by non-state actors against civilian or symbolic targets in order to achieve political, ideological, or religious objective by creating fear and psychological pressure. So this definition to some people might be not right. Some people will say it is right, but what you just need to know is that there is no generally acceptable definition of terrorism. So, but they all have common factors, common element. Violence is there. It is created by non-state actors. Violence is there, created by non-state actors. These are common element that is there, and threat to create how do you call it, to create pressure. In essence, the key features of this terrorism, when you look at terrorism, so the key features of terrorism typically include what you are seeing on the screen: political motivation. Number one, key features, characteristics of terrorism, or key features. Let me just say key features of terrorism. Number one, political motivation. So terrorists acts are usually carried out to influence political outcome. So when you see terrorists in a particular society, they want to change a political decision or they are interested in one political activity. because they usually have a mission. That's number one. Number two, violence or threat of violence. That is another. From that, for you see, from the definition, that is where we are bringing out the features, the elements or the characteristics. Violence or threat of violence. That is, with terrorism, there's usually physical attack, bombing, kidnapping, and assassination. They are common tactics in terrorism. Listen, you can see it from the side. Violence or threat of violence or threat of violence. Bombing, attack, physical attack, kidnapping, assassination. They are very common tactic used by terrorists. Number three, characteristics or features you see when it comes to terrorism. This characteristics we are talking about is taken from our definition. Listen, so the third one is psychological impact. Terrorist action, it is usually aimed to instill fear far from beyond the immediate victim. Look at today, a lot of people are afraid to take night bus to go to Zamfara or Kaduna or Kano. But before, people usually travel at night. I know my brother that's school in Zaria in 2002. They would travel from Osun State at night to Zaria. But now, people are afraid to travel by bus at night. If you try it by night now, you will be praying till you get to your destination. You will not sleep. So they create psychological impact. So why the next one, this next characteristic is a symbolic target. So target often represent government authority, economic power, or cultural identity. So when terrorists launch attack, they usually focus on government, how do you call it? Government authority, the government people, or government buildings and the likes, or economic power, or cultural identity. They usually have the target when they launch the activity. And the last one from our definition is non-state actors, because we mentioned that it is usually carried out by formal, no, by non-state actor. They usually operate outside the state actors, so they are not part of the government. So it is usually carried out by non-state actors. Although you might dispute that it is carried out by state actors, by that is the state sometimes sponsored them. You might dispute that, but we should know that if they are not able to declare themselves, that if maybe if for instance, if a governor or a minister is sponsoring them and is not capable to declare himself publicly, then it is under the carpet. So it is carried out by the non-state actors. So from the definition, we should know that terrorism is not merely an act of violence, but it is a strategic method of political communication. Because terrorists, whatever they do, they use it to communicate to the government politically. Understand? So, the causes of terrorism. The causes of terrorism. For us to understand the causes of terrorism is essential for us to understand the we need to understand that causes to know how to prevent the or how to combat it. Understand? So scholars bring out different causes. Understand? So we are going to list some of the causes, and the number one causes is political causes. We should know that political repression and exclusion often create conditions in which extremist movement gain support. Understand? I repeat, political, you can see from the slide. I said political repression and exclusion create the condition in which extremist movement gain support. Which means that if some set of people they see that they are segregated or discriminated politically, they will find a way to disrupt the political activity of a particular society. You can see it going to the Jonathan regime. Listen. So Boko Haram we were hearing about Boko Haram up and down, up and down, up and down. So finding a way to disrupt the activity, the political activity of the president. Listen. So you see, when an individual or a group feel that peaceful political participation is impossible, once they see that they are not letting them participate politically in a peaceful way, so they usually turn to violence as a means of expressing grievance. They want to show that they are not happy with the system. So, showing that they are not happy with the system, they venture into finding a way to attack the government as a way of political communication. So, usually in a system, the terrorists politically or mostly function in an authoritarian regime, a society that lack democratic institution, or a system or an institution, a system that discriminates some set of people, or some community, discriminate a set of people community. This can contribute politically to terrorism. Another causes of terrorism is economic factors, economic causes. Economic inequality, unemployment, and the poverty in the society can also play significant role in the emergence of terrorism. Sometimes poverty alone cannot produce terrorism. You understand now? But if there is economic marginalization can create frustration. Listen, economic marginalization can create frustration and resentment, especially among the youth. When the youth see that there is limited opportunity for them to grow, when they see that they are being marginalized, it can create, how do you call, frustration and resentment. So because you see all these terrorist organizations, they recruit desperate youths. We've heard of history whereby they go to village to go and recruit youth in the village in some part of the north. Listen, because of the youth they are become desperate, that they lose hope. So this make the terrorists to recruit them with more attractive, how do you call it, incentive. Normally they offer financial incentive, social belonging. That is, I belong. Listen, because if you hear the news, the latest interview of Shegumi says that those terrorists, the government know them. Everybody in the village know them. They know their family. They know the house. Understand? So these people, they have been recruited, and they will move freely in the city or in the village as they belong. You understand? So that is poverty. When poverty reach extremely, economic marginalization. So another factors or causes of terrorism is ideological or and religious extremism. Ideological belief and distorted interpretation of religion are frequently used to justify the act of terrorism. Listen, when you turn the scripture into your favor, what the scripture is saying is you are not following it, you now turn it upside down. You understand? It brings distorted interpretation of scripture. So they may frame their own violence as a sacred duty. That is, they will frame the violence, the chaos they are causing under the religious jurisprudence or moral obligation, portraying that what they are doing is being defended by religion. For instance, now, organization like Al Qaeda, even the Boko Haram in Nigeria, the ISIS in Nigeria, ISWAP in Nigeria, they have used radical interpretation of religious doctrine to legitimize attack they are causing to people. So ideological or religion extremism or justification is another cause. Another cause of terrorism is social and identity conflict. That is ethnic, cultural, or identity-based tension can also create terrorism. You understand? So when the Fulani say they are above the Hausa say they are above the Kanuri say they are above the. Understand? So when there's ethnic or cultural identity-based tension, it can also fuel terrorism. That is, one ethnic group want to take over the other by force. Especially in a society whereby different different ethnic group compete for political power, resources, or recognition. Extremists, they dwell in, they rise up in such society. So, in how do you call down this social or identity conflict is very dangerous. It's very dangerous in the sense that, especially when the politicians, politicians, when the political leaders or the politicians manipulate ethnic or religious division. Sometimes you see politicians using ethnic or religion as a tool to get supporters, which is going to bring people upside down. Listen. And the last one you can see here is a community impact. So community impact, as I said, you see, conflicting identity within a community can create a deep mistrust. When you say community, they fight each other. I'm bigger than you are bigger than me. So now, this can create a terrorist group exploit. So in essence, these six, how do you call them? Yeah, these six, is it six I mentioned? No, it's five. Let me see. So 1, 2, 3. So these five causes I mentioned are primary causes of terrorism. There might be other causes, but these are primary causes of terrorism. Understand? The next concept you are looking at is just bear with me. Yes, it's this one I'm supposed to put. Is insurgency. We've looked at terrorism. We will now look at insurgency. Then we look at counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency. So insurgency, when we say insurgency, understand, the word is not new to us. Understand? So in essence, insurgency refer to we can say insurgency refer to a protracted political and military struggle. Political and military struggle aimed at weakening or overthrowing an established government or authority. Understand? It is aimed at weakening or overthrowing an established government or authority. So I repeat, it is a protracted political and military struggle aimed at weakening or overthrowing an established government or authority. So in essence, with insurgents, the target is based on overthrowing a government or a particular constituted authority. Unlike the terrorism which is primarily rely on act designed to create fear. Primarily, terrorism is designed to create fear. But insurgency typically involve organized armed resistance with broader objective to overthrow the leader or weakening a government. Understand? So in essence, with insurgency, understand? So you can see from my slide, I said organized armed group, organized armed group, because they want to overthrow the leader in the country, or how do you call, weakening them. They create a parallel government. The insurgent movement often establish an administrative system. You understand? So in essence, the target of this insurgents, it is meant to overthrow or weaken a constituted authority or government. So we now mention that insurgencies usually operate within a specific territory and attempt to build support among local population. That is, the local sometimes support them. Like what happened in Burkina Faso. It was an insurgent act till it led to a coup d'etat. So the key characteristics of insurgency, the number one we have here on the list on the screen is that it involves organized armed group capable of conducting sustainable military operation against government force. That is, you can see the picture I put in the slide. Those men that you are seeing, they are capable to face the army, the police, the navy, the air force. That's number one characteristics. Number two, second characteristics are the insurgent movement often establish parallel governance structure. They often establish parallel governance structure. That is, they usually this structure they form. Understand? It's like a government system also, because they this structure may how do you call, this structure may include taxation system, court system, administration institution. In some part of the north, those insurgent group in some part of the north, they collect tax from people. All these people, they go to each doors. They collect money from them. If you don't want them to harm you, if you don't want them to kidnap you, they collect money from them. They run a parallel government. There was a time in the news whereby a governor in the north says that I think it's Zamfara. He says they know where these insurgents people are, that those people that are causing chaos, they know where they are, and if they want to catch them, they can catch them, but our leaders are not ready to catch them, because these people are tormenting the villages. They are running parallel government in the villages. So another characteristics of this insurgency is that insurgency usually rely on support from local population. They rely on support from local population, which may provide them shelter, information, and recruit. That is, the local, they know them. The local, they know them. They live with them. And this local sometimes give them their informants. The local are informant to them. They provide them shelter. And even they help them to recruit people to join them. Understand? Why the last characteristics of this insurgency is that we know insurgency, they frequently employ a combination of tactics. Understand? So I'm not a soldier, but I know there is guerrilla. Somebody say network log me out. Okay. So I know that there is like guerrilla warfare, propaganda, terrorism, or sabotage. They use different tactics to achieve the aim. Understand? A prominent insurgency, an example of a prominent insurgency, understand, is the campaign conducted by the Taliban in Afghanistan. Understand? They want to gain control of the country because they were removed in power in 2001. So they want to get control of the country. So the Taliban in Afghanistan, they then launch their own way of getting the control of the government. Understand? I don't know if you can hear me. I'm talking alone. Okay, we have 5 people. If you can hear me, let me know.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, uh, we have here counter-insurgency. Counter-insurgency. You know, we've talked about insurgency. Now, the counter-insurgency, you should know that counter-insurgency, this one refer to the policies and the measure adopted by the government and international organization to prevent, deter, and respond to terrorist activities. Counter-terrorism refer to the policy and the measure adopted by the government and the international organization to prevent, deter, and respond to terrorist activity. Understand? That is, how are we going to stop insurgency? How are we going to stop insurgency? Understand? How are we going to send them? So the objective of this counter-terrorism, understand that these counter-terrorism strategies, the objective is to disrupt terrorist network. That is, if we stop insurgency, the terrorism is not going to upgrade to terrorism. So to disrupt it. Understand? Preventing recruitment, because the insurgent, they get recruitment. So to prevent recruitment and radicalization. Understand? Why the third one is protecting potential targets. Because with insurgency, they have their own targets. So the counter-terrorism is to protect them. Sometimes you said last time that Tinubu went to Turkey, last time he went to Turkey, he signed an MOU with the Turkish president that is on counter-terrorism activity. And this is what they are going to do. And responding effectively to attack. In essence, with counter-terrorism, the principle, there are 3 principles you need to know. 3 principles are winning heart and mind. That is, they tend to gain the trust and support of the population. Because you know that when we're talking about counter-terrorism, we mentioned that insurgency, rather, when we're talking about insurgency, we mentioned that they also get the support of the people. You know, Sheikh Gumi said that those terrorists in the north, that they know all of them. They know their house, they know their family, they know where they are living, but they cannot denounce them. So with counter insurgency, you tend to gain the heart and the mind of the population, so that the population are going to support you. If the population are at the side of the government, they are going to give the government information required. But if they are not in the side of the government, there are no way they will give information to the government. So with counter-terrorism, another principle of the counter-terrorism is that it addresses the root causes. Because the root causes of insurgency, I'm saying terrorism again, insurgency. The root cause of insurgency is grievances. So they tend to tackle the grievances of people. Why are they doing what they are doing? Economic inequality, political exclusion. We need to they look at the causes. They go and sort that the problem. Understand? They go and sort out the problem from the grassroots. Why the third principle is integrated civil military activity. That is, both the civil and the military, they have to cooperate together. The coordinated military action with potential, how do you call it, economic or political reform. So, in essence, with counter-terrorism, it has its own, how do you call it? It has its own, sorry, it has its own usefulness, because with counter-terrorism, you tend to, sorry, counter-insurgency. So with counter-insurgency, you tend to find a solution to the problem, the crisis happening in the society. Listen. So I want to talk about. I saw one slide there. I missed one slide, which is the counter-terrorism. Let me talk about it before I proceed. Yeah. Can you see my slide?
Yes, I can see
Can
it.
you see my slide, please?
Present objective and the strategy approaches.
Thank you very much. So with counter-terrorism, we've talked about terrorism. So you should know that the counter-terrorism is just an action. It's just like a strategy adopted by the government or the international organization in preventing data or stopping terrorist activities. So with counter-terrorism, what are the objectives or the strategy of counter-terrorism? Listen, number one is intelligence surveillance. So, in intelligence surveillance, in essence, that the government use informants, data analysis, surveillance to detect threat before it occur. Listen, that is, before it occur, they use the intelligence gathering. And so, intelligence gathering is one of the most important tools in counter-terrorism, because the government is going to rely on informants, surveillance, and data analysis to detect potential threat before they strike. That's number one. So, number two is military operation. That is, military force, they may be used to eliminate terrorist activities, especially where the terrorists train, because those terrorists, they also have terrorist camp, training camp. So where they train, they disrupt the training camp, disrupt their network, capture or kill leaders of extremist organization. Listen, we can see in Nigeria it happened whereby they kill the leader of this terrorist organization. When you kill the leader, it discourages them. Listen, so the military operation is also how do you call it, strategic or an objective in counter-terrorism. Another thing is financial measure. So when you say financial measure, we say terrorists, terrorist organization, they often depend on complex financial network to fund their operation. Some people give them money. So sometimes they get their money from inside the country or outside the country. So counter-terrorism will now apply some policy. You understand? The counter-terrorism policy, it will include effort to monitor and disrupt illicit financial flow. Last year, when they catch one of the guy of Shegumi, he was collecting 10% on each ransom. He was collecting 10% on each ransom. I don't know that the military have been listening to his phone call, and they catch him. You understand now? So when they see suspicious money flow in your account, and it's not clear that this money has been coming, they will be monitoring. The government will be monitoring. You may be there one day like this, and you just say maybe 50 million just enter your account just like that. 2 weeks after, another 50 million enter. You go explain. Recently, that they said they want to do coup d'etat in Aso Road, that they want to overthrow Tinubu. Listen, Some of the when you read the news, you see that they were monitoring the money that was going illicitly. Which this money, what do they want to do with this money? So the government also monitor the funds. Understand? Why the last one is a legal and institutional measure. So when you say the legal and institutional measures, you see many countries in the world, they have introduced a new law. Understand? So this new law is meant to strengthen their ability to prosecute terrorism-related offense, any offense related to terrorism. Any country that you practice that one, they are going to prosecute you. Understand? They are going to either it succeeded or not succeed. Once you practice anything related to it, you are going to be prosecuted. Understand? There is specialized court. There is enhanced border security. So you see, those people they carry that they said they want to use, they want that in Nigeria. Normally, there is always a military court in Nigeria. That we have military court in Nigeria, but they did not take them to the military court now. Maybe in the future they will take them to military court, but they did not take them there because this one is a special issue, so it requires specialized court to target it. You understand? So in essence, counter-terrorism in essence is referred to the policy and measure adopted by the government. You see the same definition, you see the same definition of counter-insurgency, right? So the measure adopted by the government or the international organization to prevent, deter, and response to terrorist activities. Understand? Why the other one also is still the same thing, or you can say that one is a comprehensive set of action taken by the government or the international organization to defeat insurgent movement. Understand? Let me move. Let's talk about this. Now, terrorism, insurgency. Terrorism, insurgency. The how do you call it? The similarity or the differences. So with terrorism, they target civilian a symbolic site to create psychological fear and pressure. But with insurgents, they directly challenge the constituted authority, the government, through sustained armed struggle. Why the second one is that with terrorism, they use violence or threat primarily for political or ideological communication. Understand? Why with insurgency, it involves organized group conducting military operation on building support from the local community. With terrorism, it tends to be episodic. That is, when they launch attack this month, it might be 2 months after they will launch another attack. Yes, sir. But with insurgency, they establish a parallel governance to take control of a particular area in the country. There are some states in Nigeria, some state governor cannot, how do you call, have mouth there, because all these insurgent group have taken part of that state. If we you can check the news, some of the governors in the north, some of them they've mentioned it. So with terrorism, it is typically conducted by the non-state actors operating outside the formal structure. While with insurgency, they seek broader political or territorial objective over a long-term period. Those people with they vex in politics, they can create their own system administration. Son. We have the example. This is a practical example. The Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria. You see that the Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria, small, they've gone to being a terrorist group. So you can read it from the slide. You can read it from the slide, and we will proceed. We will proceed to the next aspect. The next aspect of our slide is okay. I've already explained this one. The next aspect of our slide is fractionalization. Fractionalization. So one of the most persistent sources of instability in the international system is the presence of internal division within the society. When you see that within the society, people are divided, people are faction, that's factionalization. So now, when you see that inside Nigeria, we are divided among ourselves, that is factionalization. That is the primary sources of instability. You see the Yoruba saying they are bigger than the Hausa say they are bigger than the Fulani say they are bigger than the Igbo say they are bigger than the Kanuri say that they are bigger than the Ibibio. So when you see that everybody just divided, that is factionalization. So when a society becomes deeply divided along political, ethnic, religious, or economic line, this division can escalate into violence. You understand? This division can escalate into violence. You understand? So, in essence, we are going to look at the concept of factionalization. So I'll just give you a brief for you to understand what we mean by factionalization. It's coined from the word faction. Understand? So if you do mathematics, when you give you orange, the faction, it can be 2/3, it can be 1/6, depending on how you divide it. So factionalization, this refer to the division of a society, or political system into competing group. Not that the society or the political group are going to just be divided. They are going to be divided and be competing with each other. Understand? So, competing group of factions that pursue their interest in opposition to one another. Understand? So you see, factionalization can occur in ethnic side, it can be religion aspect, it can be ideological aspect, it can be economic status aspect, or political orientation aspect. So in a country, you can just look at the country as the country is. Listen, some country you will see that there are different factions. There's different factions. From the definition you see from the slide, the definition says factionalization is the division of a society into a competing groups that vie for power based on political, ethnic, religion, ideological differences. This was the definition by Brombaker in 2004. You will see that maybe one religion group want to take power. They want to be the one that is always dominating, or one ethnic group, they want to be the one that is always. So this is going to create frustration, coming into factions. Types of factionalization. Number one type of factionalization is political factionalization. So when you say political factionalization, what we are trying to let you understand is that this one occurs when rival group within a political system compete intensively for power and influence, like what is happening in PDP. You will see what is happening in the PDP. It's a practical example of political factionalization. We have the Wike faction. We have the Wike faction. We have the Governor Bala faction, because they belong to the same political party, but they are within the same political party and they are still rival, competing intensively for power and influence. It's usually emerged in how do you call it, political parties, military institutions, governing elites. That is political factionalization. Why the second one we have is ethnic factionalization. In ethnic factionalization, we mean that ethnic division, son, ethnic division, that one often that one often arises from political leaders, because the political leaders manipulate ethnic identity to mobilize support. Buhari is a Fulani man. He will usually he will mobilize his people, the Fulani. Tinubu is a Yoruba man. He's going to mobilize Yoruba people. If another person comes that is Igbo, he's going to mobilize Igbo. And they are going to now manipulate the people. Look at what Tinubu is doing. Emilokan, right? Emilokan. That is using ethnic power to mobilize, to manipulate people. This is politics. It happened. So, but political leaders use the ethnic group as a manipulation tool to create factions. You understand? Instead of promoting national unity, leaders may emphasize differences. Oh, now we. If you translate the Emilokan, if the Emilokan, the slogan of Tinubu, if you translate it, you will know that now our turn. So they will label on. Is either they focus on the, how do you call, the ethnic, the politician, they focus on the ethnic group. They use that one to create faction so that the ethnic is going to be in their support. Another example, another type of factionalization is religious factionalization. With the religious factionalization, religion differences, that one can create factionalization easily. Even among the Muslim, we have different sects. Among the Christian, we have different sects. Among the traditionalists also, we have different sects. You understand? When Nasir El-Rufai, Governor Nasir El-Rufai, when he was a Kaduna, there was this man that was Sheikh Zakzaki, El-Zakzaki, that was there. Understand? It is believed that Sheikh Zakzaki is a leader of the Shiite Muslim in Nigeria. What they did to him, if other Muslims also were supporting Sheikh Zakzaki, they would have not done that to him, because there is a faction, there's a religious faction. Yes, son. So conflict between a religious group may emerge when one particular group perceives itself as marginalized or threatened by another. We've seen crisis in some states between Khan and the MSSN. Listen, it happened. It's not something we are just going to wipe under the carpet. So, in essence, the religious factionalization is particularly dangerous because it can generate deep into emotional attachment. Because that one is very difficult to reconcile. You don't do my religion, I don't do your religion. I'm bigger than you. You are bigger than me. Religiously, that can cause faction, that can deepen problem, cause insecurity. Understand? Why the fourth one type of factionalization is a ideological factionalization. With ideological factionalization, what we tend to say is that ideological division, we mean ideological factionalization, we mean ideological division. And so the different ideology people hold, The different ideology people know can create different faction. When a group holds a fundamental different belief about how society should be organized, listen, some people believe. I don't want to say. Don't let me say Sarah. Let me just say another example. There is a news the day before yesterday. One polytechnic in Kano were chasing people out of the school because they did not dress well. What was the reason? Because they are in Ramadan. And those
Sir,
people.
It's Kaduna, not Kano.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Poly.
So they were chasing people out of the school because they did not dress. You understand? That polytechnic, they were chasing people out of the school because they did not. Why? Because it was Ramadan. What is your own problem with Ramadan? They are not fasting with you. Just be doing your own fasting. Do you understand? So this can create religious faction or ideological faction because they don't share the same ideology with you. You are now imposing your own ideology on them. Do you understand this thing? You are imposing your own ideology on them because they don't share the same ideology with you. They dress the way they deem fit to dress. So you think that your own ideology, that is a perfect way that things should be governed. Listen. So when there is different coalition or different division in ideology, this can create ideological factionalization. You understand? This course is an interesting course. So it's an interesting course. You can even see many examples in your surrounding with this course. So we are moving to the next aspect. The next aspect is inequality as a source of conflict. Inequality as a source of conflict. You know, we talk about terrorism, insurgency, counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency, factionalization. We are not talking about inequality. We are talking about inequality. Listen, can anyone just tell me the definition of inequality? What does inequality mean? Based on your own understanding, what does inequality mean? Anybody? I want contribution from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Akanji. So, I mean, I'm falling in and out of my internet. So, I think inequality is just lack of balance in a system where there is lack of equilibrium. That means that there is superiority and inferiority. So, it's not like a 50-50 system. That's what I think inequality is.
Thank you very much. Search from my own definition, lack of balance, inferiority, inequality, inferiority, superiority. Any other contribution? Any other contribution? Inequality. Inequality. The word inequality is not new to us. Understand that? But in essence, what we need to understand is that inequality refers to unequal distribution of resources, lack of balance. That is, things are not balancing. Unequal distribution of resources. As she said, lack of balance. Things are not. Understand? So unequal distribution of resources, opportunity, or political power within a society. Listen, unequal distribution of resources, opportunity, and political power within a society. This course, even if you don't read, you go pass because some of the things are things that you are familiar with. Listen, these are things that you are familiar with. You can coin your own definition and come out with something. So inequality in the society, it creates grievances that can lead to social unrest and violent conflict. It has happened in Nigeria many times. When there is inequality, it has happened in Nigeria many times where we've seen that the how do you call them? The Niger Delta people, the Niger Delta is part of the how do you call part of the request was because there was inequality. Listen, so they are not only the only example we can cite in Nigeria. Many examples like that. Listen, so in essence, inequality manifests itself in many forms, and number one forms is economic inequality. So when you say economic inequality, it comes from the word economic inequality. In the exam, if they ask you, you should be able to answer. Listen. So economic inequality in essence is that one occur when wealth or income are distributed unevenly across society. It is not distributed equally across the society, especially when there is large disparity between the rich and the poor. Before some people say in Nigeria we have rich, higher class, middle class, lower class. But now some people are disputing that we don't have middle class. It's either you are rich or you are poor. You understand? So it depends on how you are view things. I'm not saying that is how it is. I'm not living in Nigeria with you. But in essence, when you see that there is large distance between the rich and the poor, that creates economic inequality. Understand? Because there are some disadvantaged people in the society. They are going to perceive that you are trying to remove them from setting. Understand? Usually in developing countries like Nigeria, like Ghana, like Mali, Burkina Faso, all the developing countries you might know, understand, economic inequality is usually exacerbated. Understand that is it is something that is glaring, that is something that is existing. Listen, because of some factors like a limited industrialization, unequal access to education, dependence on the primary commodities and the of export. And so this unequal economic inequality, it can contribute to labor strike, urban unrest, and the emergence of radical political movements. You see some political party, some of them, they just create themselves because, like the AA, who is the president, the leader of AA? You people where they do politics, who is the leader of AA in Nigeria? Amoyele Sowore. How do you call it? How does he call him his name? Amoyele Sowore. You will know that anytime he's talking out of frustration. Although he's making sense, he makes sense sometimes, but most of the time he's talking out of frustration. So another forms of inequality is political inequality. So political inequality arises when a certain group are excluded from meaningful participation in political decision-making processes. Maybe the president promised them ministerial post or ambassadorial post, and they are not getting it. Or maybe the president promised them chief of army staff. Or maybe the president has promised them that, okay, they are the one that's going to be minister of power or minister of, and they are not getting it. It's going to create political inequality. Or in the essence that you see that the president maybe is focusing on maybe Hausas or Yoruba or Igbos to give them post. It's going to create political inequality. This exclusion may occur through discriminatory laws or manipulation of electoral system. Some group in the country might feel that they are lacking representation. That, okay, since Nigeria become a democratic state since 1999, how many Yoruba has become president? How many Fulani has become president? How many Igbo has become president? How many Kanuri? How many Ibibio? They will not cite everything to now analyze it. After analyzing, they will now go geopolitically to analyze that in this geopolitical zone, how many presidents have come out from it? How many presidents have come out from this geopolitical? And so after analyzing, they will now come with political inequality and argument that, oh, no, we are not doing. It is our turn to be leader now. At least you don't do like 2 times. You don't do like 2 times. It's our own turn now. Because they will be feeling that politically, even let's leave governor. For my own state, in Osun State, understand? For my own state in Osun State, the song they are singing at the moment, West, is the turn of the West. That is, the west part of Osun State, they believe that they are the one that must produce the next governor of Osun State. Because other parts of Osun State have produced governors, except the West. You know, since they created Osun State. Do you understand that? So people will now use that one as a slogan to be motivating people towards the current governor. It happened to the president, it happened to the governor also. And so now, so political inequality has been a significant factor, numerous for conflict across Africa. Some of the conflict in Africa, political inequality cause it. And so another type we have is social inequality. When you say social inequality, you refer to the disparity in access to education, healthcare, housing, and other essential services. In social inequality, you see, some people, they don't have access to all these social amenities. Listen, they don't have access to these social amenities. And it is believed that this social inequality, it is often caused by economic inequality and political inequality. That is placed it is deliberately placed to make some people disadvantaged. Understand? I want to say this example. If I'm wrong, pardon me, forgive me. Understand? You see, these people, then they call the Almanjiri. Listen, some of them might want to go to school. Some of them might want to go to school. But to me, there is social inequality. They are not giving them the access to the right education. Listen, they are not giving them the access to. So that is social inequality. Some people in that particular community have the access to education, but these children that they are pushing outside as Almanjiri, they don't have access to that education, which is creating social inequality. And these children, if they are not properly taken care of, they can become a menace to the society in the future. And that is social marginalization. That is social marginalization. So these are the 3 forms of inequality. The inequality in the society. We have the political, economic, and the social inequality. It's already 9 p.m. in Nigeria, right? What's the time in Nigeria, please?
Can you hear me? Yes, it is 9:01.
9:01.
Okay. Can you give me just like 10 minutes? Make I finish this mode 1 section 2. Just 10 minutes. Yes, then I know 10 minutes is small, but I'll just sharply talk about this one. So that is the theory we can use to explain inequality and conflict. As in this particular course we are doing, they use 3 theories to explain inequality and conflict. Although we have several theories, but the one that is commonly used are 3. We have the relative deprivation theory. The relative deprivation theory. This theory is is one of the most influential explanation. Is one of the most influential theories used to explain conflict and inequality. So deprivation, the relative deprivation theory. This one, it refers to the perception that one's group is unfairly disadvantaged compared to the other. Understand that? The perception that one particular group is unfairly disadvantaged compared to the other. So, according to this particular theory that we are talking about, this relative deprivation theory, and conflict arises not simply because of poverty. That is, poverty might not be the cause of conflict. Listen, listen, but because individuals perceive a gap between their expectations and the actual condition. When they see that what they are expecting from a particular government, they are not receiving that thing. When there is the gap is too long. What they're expecting is not what they are seeing. Understand? It can lead to conflict. That is relative deprivation. The perception that one group is unfairly disadvantaged compared to the other. So when the gap becomes sufficiently large, when you see that the gap becomes too large, frustration can transform to aggression and then lead to violence. When the gap is too large, when what they are expecting is not what they are seeing, it can lead to frustration, which is can lead to aggression. Understand? Frustration can lead to aggression, and then from aggression, it moves to violence. That's it. And the other one is structural inequality theory. The structural inequality theory, that one emphasizes the role of the historical and institutional factors in producing inequality. Understand? That is, the history has been made to make some people marginalized. That history, the history has made some people to be. I give you an example now. The colonial legacy, the way the colonial masters leave Africa, has make Africa to look like a third world country, a developing country. That is, we cannot match them. Understand that? That is a structural inequality that is being influenced by institution or history, historical factor. Understand? The global economy structure, the way the global economy is designed, the IMF, the way IMF is designed. If Africa take loan from IMF and if UK or any country in Europe take from IMF, the interest they are paying is different. Africa interest is usually higher than Europe. So the way the institution and the way the history is designed. So this structural inequality theory is saying that it is the historical and institutional factors. Some historical and institutional factors are designed to make some set unequal. So this structure we are talking about, this structural inequality, they often generate conflict over land, political power, and economic structure. Today, Africa is calling to get a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council, having 54 countries, and there is no country in Africa that is having a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. They talk about Africa every day without the presence of Africa. So that's inequality, structural inequality theory. That is, the institution and the history has been designed like that to make some people below, marginalized, discriminated, segregated. Why the last one is greed versus grievance debate. Greed versus grievance debate. Another influential perspective the people to study conflict is the greed versus grievance debate. So some scholars have argued that conflicts are driven primarily by economic incentive. Understand? Conflict, they are primarily occur, understand, by economic incentive, such as control over natural resources, rather than facing ideological or social grievance. Let me give an example now. What can I use as an example? Like economic opportunity. Understand? Economic opportunity may enable conflict to continue. You will see some country, they have all the mineral resources in the world, but they are still in war. They are still in conflict. You understand? They are still in war because some people in that particular society will be feeling that they are being marginalized. So, which is going to cause grievances. That is greed. They will be expecting to get more from the government. Listen, they will be expecting to get more from the government. I want to take one example. I'm very sorry if you have a different opinion regarding this, but the Niger Delta case, listen, you will see that there was a time they were demanding too much. There was a time they were demanding too much from the government, the federal government. There was a time they were demanding too much from the oil companies, the federal government. They were doing what they can do, but it reached to a state they were demanding too much. They were now kidnapping all these expatriates. So, which is going to be greed is going to enter in. That is, this month we are not working. We are just because it's our zone. Federal government must be giving us money. Then it now escalates to a stage whereby the leader, the leader of that particular group, greed is going to be input in what they are demanding for. So from the greed aspect, it's going to lead to grievances, and then grievance is going to provide the initial motivation for rebellion. Listen, rebellion will not occur if there is no greed. When one particular sect, they want to take the highest part of the cake. So when you see that later on, I think I don't know whether it's Buhari later give it to Tambolo, that Tambolo should be monitoring the Niger Delta zone, and they give some incentives to people there so that they can calm down. So this is where we are going to stop for tonight. You can continue we are going to stop here. Let me check. We are in slide 13. So we are going to slide 19. Understand now. So that is mode 1, section 1 and section 2. So we are going to continue with the last section in our next class, probably Wednesday. If you have my time on Wednesday, we are going to continue on Wednesday. Let me just put the recording. Stop. So any question for me, please? Question, observation, suggestion, advice?